So, hey everybody, welcome to Steve Couper's podcast for aspiring real estate investors. In each episode, I strive to bring industry subject matter experts and investors that are going to be able to help share their insights and a bit of knowledge to help you with your journey. Today's guest is a co-founder and managing partner of Phipps and Tessier Real Estate Group at CIR Realty. She is both a licensed residential and commercial realtor and an active real estate investor. This gives her a unique perspective on Calgary's ever-evolving market. She was born and raised in Calgary. She combines deep local market knowledge with practical, investor-focused approach that helps clients navigate everything from their first homes and legal suites to multifamily investment and long-term growth portfolio. She's known for making complex real estate decisions understandable and actionable, and she's become a real sought-after speaker, making me pretty excited. So, if you, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Andrea Tessier to Steve Couper's podcast. Andrea,
Thank you so much. Thanks,
did I,
Steve. I'm really excited to be here.
I really do appreciate you joining me today. So, let's get right into this. I mean, real estate is not an easy game. There's a lot of easier ways to make a living than real estate. What was the moment that you realized this was the path that you wanted to pursue? Ladies and gentlemen, before we get started, I'd like to thank the sponsor of today's episode, the Savvy Investor. One thing I've learned in my real estate journey is that success isn't just about finding great deals. It's about surrounding yourself with the right people, the right education, and the right support network. And that's exactly what Savvy Squad provides. Whether you are just getting started or already building a portfolio, you'll gain access to weekly live coaching, expert guest presenters, deal analyzers, training resources, market updates, and a community of like-minded investors who are all working toward exactly the same goal as you, financial freedom through real estate. So right now, if you scan this QR code, you can take advantage of a 14-day free trial and a special membership rate of $147 a month. Now, that's a savings of over $600 off your membership. So check out Savvy Squad today and see how far the right community can take you. And now, let's get on with the show.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I actually started as an investor myself before I became licensed as a realtor. So my partner now, Natasha Phipps, she was my first realtor. When I was looking to purchase my first home, I had met her through RAIN, the Real Estate Investment Network, and she really had encouraged me to purchase a property with a secondary suite. And I remember at the time I was a little unsure. I didn't know if I wanted to be a landlord and, have to deal with that, but it was the best choice that I could have made. So I ended up house hacking, living in one unit and renting out the other. And that was kind of my first introduction to the investment space. And from there, I was really hooked. And I think that kind of just snowballed and I moved on to more properties. And after a couple of years, I was actually kind of during COVID in my previous job. Of course, things were shut down. And I thought, you know what? I should do my licensing to become a realtor. So I completed my licensing quite quickly. And I had approached Natasha to join her team and then went from there. So yeah, starting as that investor, I do try to bring that experience into when I'm working with clients for sure. And that's kind of what drove my passion to help others maybe follow that same journey.
That's an amazing journey, and good for you. Good for you. That takes a lot of gumption and initiative. So well thought through.
Well, thank you.
Through the course of time, then you've built a reputation now as both that investor and advisor. What lessons from investing your own money completely changed the way that you now serve clients, I guess is the way. So how did you leverage that experience to serve your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. I think as a team, any projects we ever promote are ones that we would invest in personally or that we think could be interesting projects personally. Right now in the Calgary market is a good example of that. There's so much new construction going on, for example, and lots of realtors, some even not even from Calgary, promoting different projects. And that's something that we feel strongly about, as a team and as personally myself is, I always want to promote projects that I believe in for clients, and having some of that experience as an investor myself, I think really helps for sure because I've made mistakes as an investor, and I think that's also what helped me to learn. And I hope that my clients then, can learn from the mistakes that I've made as well, and I can try to bring that knowledge through to them. And one thing I am really passionate about is secondary suites, which I'm sure we'll chat a little bit more about, but that's where I kind of started and perhaps, but and something that has worked well in Calgary and the surrounding market historically. So something that I like to bring that experience of what I've gone through as well for clients that are looking in that space.
Before we go too far down the road, I'm really excited about this rebranding now. So the Phipps and Tessier Real Estate Group, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
When most people think about a rebrand, they might be thinking about logos and colors, but you've totally changed the name. What are you now focused on as a team, and what is that problem that you're going to solve?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've always been investor focused, and that continues to be our niche for sure. But the rebranding over the past couple of years, Natasha and I have been working more closely together as partners. So this was kind of the official launch of that, I suppose, to the public. Whereas before, I was working a little more behind the scenes with some of the team management. And we really wanted, I know you mentioned like the logos and colors. We went back and forth quite a bit with our brand designer. By the end, she was probably wondering like, when are we going to pick something? But a lot of thought went into that to encompass our team. We wanted to have the mountains in there because we have agents in Calgary and Cochrane and Canmore now, and then just bringing in both of us together in our experience for Natasha, of course, who has been in this industry for 20 plus years now, and us partnering up together. So it's been a really, really exciting year officially launching that. And we have an amazing team of agents with us. So
Yeah. I've really enjoyed working with Natasha through the years, and I look forward to the opportunity to be able to work with you as well.
absolutely.
Um, and on that note, I mean, for the last few years, I have been studiously analyzing properties that come across my desk from your team, looking through Calgary investment properties, and very few of them, I gotta admit, very few have met my criteria for being cash flow positive without requiring huge, large down payments or some kind of CMHC MLI select financing to solve the underwriting. So now I've recently heard that Calgary, and to pay attention to this, Calgary is on the list of Canada's best cash flowing real estate markets. I
Mm.
guess my question is this: so has Calgary truly returned as a cash flow positive market, or are investors still being forced to bet on some kind of appreciation rather than the market fundamentals that I'm underwriting with?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it is possible to find cash flow. And I think right now we are in a little bit of a sweet spot because right now there's some interesting things happening in Calgary. Overall, we're in a balanced market. So, the past 4 to 5 years, we were in a strong seller's market. So we were seeing a lot of competition, a lot of people moving and investing in our market. And that meant that prices were increasing, but also that there were competing offers and things were very competitive. So, of course, it's great to see prices increasing, but it made it tough for buyers to enter the market. And we've seen a little bit of a softening, but depending on property type, we're seeing a bit of a divergence right now in our market. So, where we've seen the biggest adjustment has been in condos and townhouse style product. Um, that's where there's a ton of new construction happening, especially in the periphery of the city. So a lot of inventory coming on the market. So resale and new construction competing. And we've been advising clients to be very cautious if those are the areas that they're looking at. Also, a lot of purpose-built rentals coming on the market. Whereas semi-detached and detached properties have been holding quite a bit stronger. And in some areas, especially even inner city, we're still seeing quite tight conditions. So it really depends on what property type you're looking for and what area. We're seeing a bit of a divergence as well in terms of different areas. So the kind of northeast, southeast sector of the city has seen quite a big adjustment in terms of prices.
Mm.
However, they did also see one of the biggest increases over that period of the last kind of 4 or 5 years. Now that started to level out and prices have adjusted quite a bit on that side. Whereas this kind of southwest, northwest end of the city, always close to the mountains, property values hold quite strong in those areas. So we've continued to see that that's true. Now, with those prices balancing out in some areas, though, that has provided some more opportunities for negotiations on price. And of course, that can adjust our cash flow in the long term. So we have been seeing some interesting things happening there. We've also been keeping our close eye on the periphery because there are some interesting things happening in some of the towns and communities surrounding Calgary as well, which are worth considering. Of course, being right in the city center, you're always going to pay a premium, right, for that. So that can make it a little tougher sometimes to find that cash flow. But depending on what product type you're looking at, there are opportunities out there.
Okay. So if an investor's goal today is cash flow rather than speculation, then so what asset class in what area of Calgary do you think they should be looking at?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, like I mentioned previously, suited properties can be a great option.
New
Something
suited
like a
properties that come in.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so duplex or floorplex properties, it can be possible to find cash flow. We are seeing that again, for sure. We are seeing some interesting opportunities in smaller multifamily as well. I would say, properties that maybe need some value add or a little bit of renovation or where we're seeing maybe landlords that are a little bit tired and haven't raised the rents in a while. And there's a bit of room to maybe come in and stabilize and increase that. I would focus more on, again, the kind of the west side of the city or a little bit more central in some of the mature communities and neighborhoods. Still quite a bit of construction going on in the periphery. So when we're looking at clients, if they're wanting something for a new build, that can still be a decent option, but we want to be strategic then in terms of floor plan and kind of location in the community because there can be more competition with, your neighbors may also have suites or a small multi-unit as well. Um, on the west side of the city in Cochrane, also, we've been looking at quite a bit. Cochrane's kind of a unique one because prices have held fairly strong, but rental demand is very strong in Cochrane as well. It acts kind of as a bedroom community, both for Calgary. A lot of people do commute from Cochrane into Calgary, but also for communities like Canmore or even Banff, where the cost of living is substantially higher. He's finding a lot of tenants wanting to rent and live in Cochrane and maybe commute out to those areas. So there is quite a bit of demand, and there's just simply not a ton of multifamily development in those areas. So not a lot of rentals.
Hmm.
So it's a unique little pocket for sure.
Something to look at. Something to look at.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, here's a thought for you. If you were starting out from scratch tomorrow with no portfolio and only today's market conditions, what exact strategy would you pursue first? For instance, if I gave you $500,000 today and told you to build the strongest real estate portfolio possible in Calgary, say over the next 10 years, how would you deploy that money? What would you do?
Yeah, that's a good question, Steve. Um, I think I would start with, something like a fourplex potentially. When I started off my investment journey, I did house hack. And at the time, that was such a great choice. But I mean, obviously, there's also um, some sacrifices to that potentially, right? That was before I had a family and had a young child. So now, that may be a little bit more challenging to do something like that for sure. But something like that, like a fourplex or something potentially where I could add a suite or legalize an existing illegal suite, do some work and add value to a property, refinance, move on to the next one. I think is still a really good strategy in this market. So I would probably start with something like that.
Sounds like great answer. Great answer. Um,
Thank you.
Calgary has made a lot of people really wealthy and it's humbled a lot too, right?
Yeah.
Um, what do you think it is that separates the investors who survive every cycle from those who disappear when the market shifts? What do you think is the key to success there?
I think the key to this success is a long-term outlook for sure. Alberta, we are tied to the energy sector, of course. We are seeing a lot of diversification in the economy over the past several years, which is really exciting to see. But there is that bit of boom and bust. So for sure, I mean, I think people who invest in the Calgary market have to be a bit of a hardy investor. However, when we look at the long term, I think that's key. If we're looking at, okay, we're going to invest and we're wanting to pull out in a year or two, it's harder to envision what that could look like, and there's more risk with that. But when we're looking at real estate, focusing on the long term, that's where we're going to see long term appreciation and the biggest return on our investment, which is our debt pay down, right? And those tenants paying down our mortgage.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's the key. You're right on that. You mentioned a lot of agents coming from other parts of the country that don't know Calgary that are, helping investors from across the country buy in Calgary with that sort of strategy.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, we have seen a bit of that over the past few years, especially when, we were in that strong sellers market because there's agents from other markets seeing that and kind of wanting to get their feet wet a little bit. But unfortunately, sometimes what we were seeing with that is misinformation. We saw agents from other provinces advertising new construction saying it was in Calgary and it was actually in Chestermere, which is a totally other municipality. So things like that. And of course, if you're not an investor, you're not familiar with the area, you may not know that. So I think it's important to work with someone who is local to the market that you're interested in and has boots on the ground. Because right now, like we were talking about earlier, there's a lot of variation that's happening in our market by property type and sector. So if you're working with an agent who's maybe not as familiar with that or isn't boots on the ground here, they may not know those little differences. So I think there is a risk for an investor working with an agent who doesn't have that background or that information
Hmm.
because they're here, for sure.
No doubt, no doubt. Gosh, now how did that happen? Andrea, you were born and raised in Calgary.
Yeah.
If we were sitting here, imagine 10 years in the future, 2036, what would happen or what would have to happen to Calgary to become Canada's greatest real estate investment story? What do you think needs to happen?
Oh, that's a good one too, Steve. I think that Calgary is on the right track and we're set up well for a strong future. I think, like I mentioned previously, there's some exciting things that are happening in terms of diversification for the economy, for Alberta, overall, and for Calgary in particular. There's a lot of investment in tech. Calgary is one of the fastest growing tech sectors in North America, which has been really exciting to see. Investment in terms of aviation, agribusiness. So I think we're seeing a lot of that exciting development and investment come into our city. So, right, whenever we're looking at somewhere to invest, we want to be looking at the economics. We want to be looking at where people want to live, where people are moving. Our migration into Alberta to Calgary has slowed over the past year or so. We were seeing record levels over the past 4 years, but it's still net positive. So people are still wanting to live here, to move here, find work here. As well, in Calgary, we're seeing a lot of exciting things in the downtown core. So, of course, we're getting a new arena, which is going to be sad to see our Saddle Dome go, which is such a historic building.
Yeah.
Um, but so it's set for next year, 2027, our new Scotia Place Arena is supposed to be finished. And with that, there's going to be a brand new entertainment district downtown. So new hotels, restaurants. There's a new the green line for our C train, which is our light rail system. There's a new line that's going to be connecting to that. So a lot of exciting things as well happening in kind of the downtown core. The BMO, which is our big convention center, that was completed, I believe it's a little over a year ago, 2 years ago. So that's been attracting a lot of new conventions, a state-of-the-art facility, beautiful facility, and that's right down by the arena as well. So I think it's some really exciting things that happening in our downtown core in terms of revitalization, new amenities, attracting events, concerts, conventions, and things like that. So again, I think lots of positive things that we're seeing. So I think we want to continue on that track, hopefully. And Alberta, I mean, with the government that we do have, having a conservative government, we are very open for business. So that always helps in terms of investment. And in terms of our landlord laws, I mean, I think it makes it very desirable compared to some of the other provinces where it can be very, very challenging to be a landlord. Whereas in Alberta, it is very friendly. So I think there's a lot of positive things for our province and for Calgary. And, hopefully we continue to stay on that track in terms of investment and development. And it will continue to make it a positive place to invest.
I think that's a great answer. Because I mean, there's nothing that um, kills investment confidence than uncertainty. And you talked about a lot of economic positives. You probably don't want to talk about it, but what about this separation thing that I keep hearing in the news? What do you think?
Yeah.
How's that impacting everything?
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. There's talk about it for sure, but to be honest, I don't know many, if any, people that are really wanting this or understand that how it would affect us. I don't know how realistic it is to that it's going to move forward. I think there's so many unknown factors involved with that and a lot of complicated logistics. But I mean, it's a conversation. I think, if anything, we're hopeful that it does bring more attention to the province. Of course, Alberta is a strong province within our country and, hopefully brings some more attention to Ottawa. Um, but I don't think it's likely to happen as a separation. I guess time will tell.
Canada doesn't want to go through its own Brexit, so I hope not.
Yeah, I hope not either. Yeah.
Um, Tell me, what do you think there's one opportunity in Calgary today that investors are underestimating?
Hmm. Yeah. We've talked a bit about suite properties. I think that's definitely there in some smaller multifamily. We're seeing some interesting things on the bigger multifamily side too. I think with the CMHC program, I think there are unfortunately some investors that are underwater there because perhaps they, had been calculating their NOI or their rental income based off of rental rates that we were seeing the past couple of years. And rental rates have softened a little bit in the market, again, kind of depending on where you're looking. And are building 8-plexes, 10-plexes, that type of product, and now are needing to readjust their numbers. So I think there are going to be opportunities over the next few months, year. We're already seeing this come to light a little bit of, these types of investors needing some problem solvers to potentially step in and help with those because um, unfortunately we're seeing a bit of that already.
Yeah, I think I'm seeing it in other parts of the country as well, so it doesn't
Yeah.
surprise me there at all.
Yeah.
Um, Andrea, if listeners remember only one thing from this conversation, what do you hope it's going to be?
Um, just one thing. I was going to say, I think, think long term. When we're looking at real estate, it's hard sometimes not to get caught up in the headlines. We hear or looking at the broad headlines of what's going on in Canada. You need to focus on your specific area that you're looking in. Then we want to have a long-term outlook, right? I think that's a big, big key, like we said earlier, for real estate is it's a long-term game. We want to see that debt pay down over time, passive appreciation, and depending on your strategy, you may have those other returns as well of investment. But it is a long-term game.
Yeah, very good, very good. Andrea, I always like to ask people that, that come as guests on my show. I want to find out why they're doing what they're doing. I'd love to hear your why. Why are you doing what you're doing? What are your goals? And what does success look like? And so ultimately, how are you going to know when you've succeeded in achieving those goals?
Yeah. For me, why I'm doing what I'm doing, I think real estate is such a powerful vehicle for providing options, opportunities, um, and for me to reach personally in my investment journey, hopefully some form of financial freedom in the future. And that's truly why I invest is for my family, want to create that legacy and to have the freedom to do the things we love. And I'm really passionate about sharing that with other people and helping my clients also wherever they are in their journey, whether it's a brand new investor. I love working with clients who maybe didn't think about investing, in real estate previously and helping them to see what could be possible, all the way to really experienced investors who are, growing a large portfolio. It makes me really, really passionate and excited to be able to help people on their journey. I guess what would I need or what would be that indicator of success? On the personal side, hopefully it's getting to that point where I can um, I think it's just doing the things that I love without having to feel tied to an income or a budget. And for my clients, hearing their success stories, I think that's really where I draw a lot of success too. When I get to hear a client review or someone saying, you know what, this is what I've been able to do now that I've started my real estate journey, or whatever that story looks like. That's a big part of my own success too. I feel I get to share in that with clients. So
Well, that's magic. It's moving, and it actually it warms the cockles of my heart as well, just to hear that. I love that. I enjoy helping people and giving a hand up, and it makes me feel good when people succeed. So I
yeah,
appreciate
me
that.
too.
Andrea, if somebody wants to reach out and find you, how do they do that?
Absolutely. So there's a few ways. So, I mean, they can always visit our website, which is phipstessier.ca. They can follow me on Instagram. It's Andrea N. Tessier is my handle, or email, of course, which is atessier@cirrealty.ca. I always love to connect for questions, whatever it may be. Always happy to chat. So
Oh, that's great. Are there any questions or any things that you would like to add before we say thank you?
I think you covered it, Steve. You're a great host. So
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I really do. Thank you so much, Andrea. It's been a real pleasure having you on the show. You bring such a light and such a warmth to the show. It's great to have you here. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
thank you so much. Thanks for having me again, Steve. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.